I'll put that motion. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Those say no. That's carried. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right, item number 29, Disestablishment of the Housing Management Board.
Can I just ask the same question of Ian?
Ian.
I'm assuming that Andrew, Paul and I should step back for this.
We're still on the same matter?
No, this is...
I'm sorry.
This is the
Distraction to him, sorry.
You on holiday already?
Distraction.
Item 29, the disestablishment of the housing.
Item 29, and there is a note from Ian. Maybe,
okay,
Ian, do you want to join us at the table?
Yes.
And Mary, do you want to come down as well? I don't know.
No, I've got my portfolio. And
Not
I
your
said I've got
portfolio.
to stay here because they distract him too
Oh,
much.
it's Carolyn and Ian can come to the table.
That's the supplementary.
Just a second.
Oh, so sorry, I kind of missed all of this. So it's changed to go through strategy and finance. Is that right? Sorry.
It seems to me
Now
I'm
none of
reading
the
the
people that are-
memorandum from Ian that in fact his advice is different. I guess I've got it wrong.
Okay, so perhaps Ian, you can take us through your advice.
I was asked to have a look at issues around the proposals that were in the last two reports, and in principle around, or principally around conflicts of interest, which I have done in the relatively short time available to do it. My conclusion was that the Housing Management Board had the delegated authority to make the decisions that it did in terms of the appointment of council trustees to the Aotearoa Community Housing Trust. But I also have pointed out a couple of areas where we might just need to check, i.e. the process that was used to appoint those members. And I also have come to the conclusion that I don't think my recommendation would be not to disestablish the Housing Management Board at this point, because I think it needs just a little more work, a little more thought into whether or not there are any implications for that. One arising from the original delegations, resolutions made by the council. As far as I could see, there is still quite some significant work still to be done by the board, and the implications of blending the board's delegations with the terms of reference of a committee. And I just have the feeling from a process point of view that we should make sure that we've covered off those sort of issues before we make a decision whether or not to disestablish the Housing Management Board.
So, I mean, that's two different things. So, one, we were asking for whether the original appointment of council trustees to Aotearoa Community Housing Trust was lawful, and you're very clear that it's not unlawful. So that matter can proceed because we've delegated it. But I think that we had decided, because the Housing Management Board now needs to have councillors on it that can vote because of conflicts of interest of others, we would prefer to disestablish the Housing Management Board and that the matters come back through the Community Housing Trust following consideration. Now, I mean, whether it's recommendation from Strategy and Finance or whether it's recommendation from Chaired is probably neither here nor there. I'm not sure.
Can I just add? I forgot to mention that I thought the proposal to appoint 2 extra members to the board should proceed, because that will go to some way towards...
But we're not, that was the debate. We're not interested in appointing two people
Okay,
because
well then-
others are conflicted. It raises a question about the sense of the process going forward. They've done the task that they were set up to do, and now decisions can start to flow back through the council. That was, I mean, they were only ever in a temporary position. They were never to be permanently in that position, as I understood it. Sorry.
Possibly the report that you've got there was written before we got Ian's advice, and Robert's actually put in to try and pull that together. I suppose there is a change there on strategy and finance, and Robert may be able to talk to about that. It was just that the decisions that are still to be made are more around the allocation of resources, of property, of money, of that sort of thing. So that's why I think, and I don't want to put words in their mouth, but be aware that the report that's on the agenda was written before we got Ian's, and so that's why there's a slight conflict between the two. I don't know, Robert, whether you want to add anything to that?
No, you've described the circumstances. The reason the report recommends as the preferred option that the decision-making go through strategy and finance is to minimise the conflicts of interest that exist. I know that some councillors have the view that it should go through the CHED committee, and yes, it could, but the situation there is that the CHED committee is chaired by one of the trustees, the CHIP trustees, and two members of the CHED committee are trustees also. So the reason that the report opts for strategy and going through strategy and finance is to try and minimise those conflicts.
Ben and then Ali.
Okay, just on the neither here nor there comment you made, Ian, in relation to what Robert said, if it's not acceptable to go through CHED, which in my view is where the knowledge base and the terms of reference for this work lie, then I don't think it should go, certainly not through strategy and finance. It actually should come straight to council. That would be the option. So if it's not going to get support, and there's a lot of work still to be done over the Public Work Act, the buybacks, etc. So that could be an option, that we still keep the Housing Management Board going. But if it comes to that point in the discussion over strategy and finance, I would rather it come straight to council if it can't go through CHED.
Ali and then Raf.
Thank you. Look, can I just clarify? I thought the issue was that there was a suggestion that there was a conflict of interest with regards to Housing Management Board members essentially appointing three of their own to the CHIP. My understanding was that that was being looked at. If I'm hearing correctly, because I've heard you use the phrase not unlawful, are you saying it wasn't unlawful what they did, but I'm still not hearing whether there is a perceived or real conflict of interest there, because the next part of what I thought was being looked at was if there was a perceived or real conflict of interest, we couldn't disestablish or shouldn't disestablish the Housing Management Board until we had addressed some of those, because there could be resolutions, procedures and so forth that need to be revisited, and that board needed to still be in place for that to happen. Have I misunderstood something?
No, that's principally what I'm saying. That,
right.
The board was able to make the decisions it did. However, it does raise the issue of potential conflicts of interest, which I'm saying need to be managed. I'm not saying that the whole process is flawed because of it. I'm just saying that the conflicts of interest need to be managed appropriately.
And that's why the board should stay together. And
one of the ways of doing that would be to appoint two extra members to the board. And the other thing I'm saying is that I wouldn't disestablish the board right now, because I think the sort of issues you have raised, I think there needs to be further thought given to any implications that might arise from that. And I can't tell you exactly what they are right now, but I think we need to provide you with more advice around that.
Okay, thank you.
Raf,
Yeah, I mean,
Jimmy.
I mean, I don't have a particular view on whether it should be established or disestablished, the Housing Management Board. I think for me, the main issue is this conflict of interest issue, which is cropping up all over the place. I mean, clearly this should be reporting back to CHED because that's the Housing Committee. And the reason it can't be is because you've got people sitting on three different things involved in the same process, and that's what we have to sort out. So I think probably when I think about the delegations we gave to the Housing Management Board, they're probably too broad. But I think when the delegation around appointing trustees to the trust was given, I think there was an assumption that the board wouldn't appoint themselves, that there would be some kind of process, and I think that's really the question. And I don't think that's being resolved.
No, I've agreed that we probably need to look at that process and see whether or not, in particular, we complied with our own policy on the appointments of directors to council organisations.
Phil?
One of the things you've mentioned is that there's still some important tasks for the Housing Management Board to carry out. So I wonder, I'm aware that some of those will be sort of commercially sensitive and are commercial, but I wonder if you could just outline those, what they are, whether Carolyn can tell us that, or what remains to be done, what should be done, and Ian suggesting an increased number of members on the board.
So in the terms of reference, the things that are still outstanding are, I'm just trying to find them, basically around the 50 million transfer of assets. The signing of the lease would be the two main actions that are still outstanding.
They're substantial
Yes.
issues that we shouldn't delegate. Just, you know, I mean, this is what bothers me. We did do it. We did agree, but I don't think anyone really appreciated I mean, it actually gives people better protection if it comes back here for sign-off, and which is why I thought we'd agreed
We're fine with that.
that the disestablishment would proceed. But I can see that there's issues. I mean, the trouble is that probably the only reason strategy and finance is mentioned here is because Andrew's the chair of the CHED and other members are on the CHED. So, yeah, it's hugely challenging. Anyway, Jimmy and then
Okay, thank you, Mayor. One question. If we, to put the two councillors in this housing management board, so they will increase the number from currently 4 to 6. And from now on, during the housing management board meeting, to discuss all those issues, whether current 3 kind of board member, they also become the Tahi Community Housing Trust as board members. Whether they have to declare the conflict interest or not depends on some specific issue they need to be declared, or all kinds of issues they have to declare is a conflict interest.
Quite often, the interests will be aligned, I'm sure. It's only where the interests aren't aligned that those councillors who are also on the trust will need to either step back or not take part.
So at least half. Okay, thank you.
In that regard,
Andrew,
can I?
Can't.
No, and that's
I
exactly
know.
the point I've been going to make. We haven't recorded that I'll speak for myself. I'm not participating in this discussion because I'm either conflicted or there's a perception of conflict.
No, it's the
so
same
that's from
for
my
you.
point of view. I don't know what Vicky and Paul are doing, but I just wanted that recorded.
And Paul, wasn't it? It's the other one. Yeah. So that's the case. Yanni.
Oh yeah, no. I thought we were going to get a presentation on what's happening with all our housing stuff, because it does feel still quite messy, and there's lots of different things that have happened and lots of changes that have happened from the housing accord through to the different resolutions we've passed. So when are we getting that briefing? Because I think that would personally think it would actually help hopefully clarify what the different roles were and what the different actions were that were outstanding, and then we can work out a strategy of how best to do that.
Yeah, we're getting that in a couple. there's a recess week next week, so I think it's either the 4th or the 11th, so it's on a Monday, but, in a workshop, but.
Could I just ask, just a question, as councillor Cotter and I mentioned in option 4, should we then step back from the table? I mean, it's just, I know it's ridiculous, but, you know. I just want to clarify so we don't
leave no one at the table.
So there were a number of us who expressed concern when the original paper came up. We were deeply concerned that the reason for managing conflicts of interest was to appoint 2 more members. That didn't appear to be a good way of resolving the problem. It actually reinforced there is a problem. So
at best it could help, but it doesn't solve the problem.
No, it doesn't solve the problem.
It just means that, you know, we're aware of the issue. 2 extra would help, plus close management of any conflicting issues.
The delegations to the Housing Management Board are to the group as a whole and not to the individual members. Housing Management Board will make decisions collectively through a formal meeting process. The HMB is subject to council direction and policies, including internal policies, and any legislative requirements relevant to decision making by the council. So, I mean, to put 2 more members on, because 3 of them can't participate in a particular decision, is, you know, it just doesn't work. So
it makes it easier,
but I'm comforted by your statement that although the appointments process may not have been, the conflict of interest did not strike down the lawfulness of the appointment of council trustees. Because I'm very aware, you know, that we're in a state of play at the moment. You know, there are things that are happening and we don't want to hold up progress, but we want a good reporting and decision-making mechanism from here on in. Glenn.
Oh, thank you. Just my question over precedent and not sending, you know, or not making that work part of, say, in this instance, the CHED committee due to conflicts of interest. Wouldn't that set a dangerous precedent? I mean, we have members declaring interests on a regular basis.
Yeah.
This committee's large enough that it will sustain a quorum most times without 3 people. So I would, people have conflicts over heritage grants, all sorts of things. Wouldn't it set a dangerous precedent to now rule out what's an essential part of the terms of reference on the grounds that some may have an interest?
Which part are you saying we're going to rule out? I mean, I'm saying that not conflict of interest issue, as you rightly point out, crops up fairly regularly, and it's a matter of how you manage that. You make sure that the decision-making process is appropriate.
Talking about the decisions made concerning the trust not being able to be considered or recommended from the CHED committee on the grounds of interest.
Given what remains, is there any harm in having it reported directly to council?
Yeah,
because it solves the
because of the gravity of what remains.
It covers all that.
That's fine.
So, and what we've got is entering into negotiation, signing a lease agreement, signing a transfer or an assignment of council facilities management contract, and I think that, are they the only 2 that remain?
So basically to ensure the new company becomes eligible for registration as a CHIP, 11.5.5 of the term of reference. Yep. The IRRS, working to ensure that they get that. The lease and the facilities management,
So if we go back to the resolution and approve the disestablishment of the Housing Management Board effective from the date of resolution, approve that decisions remaining to be made concerning the establishment of the Housing Trust and lease arrangements, isn't it? And what is it? And other matters.
Yes,
Other matters,
Perhaps having a full stop after council.
That's right.
And deleting the rest.
Are made by council. All right.
Yep.
So, and that way it's reported directly back to here. But I think I'm also just, you know, because I'm aware of what's kind of the process that's going on at the moment, is I think we actually need to confirm the councillor appointments on the chip. I think it just gives them cover. I mean, whether we particularly agree with the process or not, I think we have to do that, because I don't think it would be fair to them to feel that they were in any way exposed by the advice that we've received. So, so who's been appointed to the chip? Approve that.
Deputy Mayor.
Those three?
Splinter group.
Councillors Buck, Turner and Lonsdale as, what are you, trustees? Trustees of the Ototahi Community Housing Trust.
That's good.
Right?
Can I just
Hey?
check, like, in the information that we've got, it's actually questioned the appointments process, and we're just cementing that?
No, we're covering,
We're confirming.
We're confirming it. So we're going outside that original process to basically
So
give
should we
this
probably have a resolution that, that just states that this is being done outside of our normal, as we normally do for these things, we make reference to our policy and say that.
I really don't think that's...
Well, what we've done is confirm the appointments.
Yep.
Yeah, I think
So,
that's
I mean,
all
in a
Just gives
way,
it another
it's-
oversight.
It's as, yeah.
But it doesn't say that it doesn't make any reference to the fact that we're going outside our normal policy.
Why do you need to do that?
Because that's what's happened, and if you wanted to protect from it, then it should
Okay,
be.
but no,
I don't
I'm not
know that for
unwilling
sure.
to sort this out. So, confirm the appointments of councillors Buck, Turner and Lonsdale as trustees of the Ototahi Community Trust, in light of, noting the advice that we have received. Because it doesn't actually say it wasn't in accordance with the council's
No,
policy, it
no,
says that it may not be.
May
So,
not, I wasn't-
and noting the advice received,
Legal advice.
that the appointments process may not have been in accordance with council...
strictly in accordance with council policy.
We're being asked to make the appointments today.
Yep.
That's what the number 3 is doing. We've just basically been given a late supplementary report to say, you know, so, I mean, if we're going to confirm the appointments, then surely it's incumbent on us now today to say the process that we've used to do that is this, whatever that might be. It's not in accordance with our normal appointments policy as council. And that's fine, I have no problem doing that. It does just seem weird that we're suddenly asked to make these appointments when they've already...
I'm trying to cover for the fact that our colleagues are involved in a process of appointments next week, and I'm not comfortable to leave them exposed to not having a resolution in support of their appointments.
I agree, like, I'm not arguing with you, but
Yes, you are.
it's just weird that we suddenly get a resolution to make appointments to something where
it's
we've
not
already
weird.
delegated the authority to someone else to make
It's
appointments.
not weird.
So should we revoke the existing appointments?
No, we
delegation?
can't. We didn't have the power to make the appointments. So
And we
I'm
still
just,
don't.
yeah, but as a council, we can state that we support. Okay, well, we'll change the word confirm to support the appointments of councillors Buck, Turner and Lonsdale as trustees of the Ototahi Community Housing Trust, notwithstanding the process that was followed. How about that? Notwithstanding the process that was followed. Or leaving that, acknowledging the recite and notwithstanding the process that was followed. I kind of want belts and braces approach.
I wouldn't be referring back to the process, to be honest. I think what you had there first covers everything.
It doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't, it means that we've been very clear about the fact that we haven't got a final position on whether the process was adopted, but we have to look to what it was.
With respect, I don't support something that refers back to the process that was followed. I'm sorry, but what you had up there was absolutely fine, and I wouldn't be referring to the process that was up there before, because I think that's making some assumptions, and I'm not prepared to support that.
Sorry, I'm just confused what we're trying to achieve today.
We're trying to
So-
I'm trying to give our colleagues a little bit of coverage for the fact that it possibly wasn't an ideal process. I don't want anyone coming afterwards to say that that our colleagues are in any way not able to undertake the role that they are
And I think the
taking.
belts and braces is provided by the council supporting it and based on advice from staff.
Okay, right, take it out. Take it out.
Don't need that with process issue in there.
Right. Okay. So, would someone like to move that?
Question?
Phil, seconded by Glenn.
Question?
Yep.
Can we put number 3 separately?
Yep. So, I'm going to put 1 and 2. I'll put 1 and 2. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. That's carried. Number 3, I'll put that separately. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no.
No.
No. Ref Manji, opposed.
Yeah, I'm opposed as well.
And Ali Jones. So you didn't have to
Do you
take
want
those
to say
words
why?
out. And Yanni.
No, but it's just
Trying to
unusual
help
that
protect you.
we're trying to fix something and now we've got people voting against without any understanding why.
Oh, I've been against
I
it.
understand why I'm not backing it.
Anyway, so, no, I understand perfectly why. So, that's fine. So that one's carried as well. And I will, and can you just note that councillors Jones and Manji oppose the second, that's fine. Right, so I think we're up to lunch, and if we could take a break, be back here at 12:30. You've got a slightly shorter 30, sorry, 1:30.